So last week, I made the prediction that your 2019 Minnesota Vikings would finish the regular season, or they will finish the regular season, with an 11-5 record. In fact, not only last week, but maybe the last couple of weeks even before that, I said after the draft that your Minnesota Vikings, they can possibly be a championship contending team. Now, in order for that to happen, I've got 5 players that I'm looking at, maybe not necessarily all 5 of them, but at least some of these 5 players need to have, a few of these 5 players need to have a bounce back performance. They need to do a complete 180 turnaround in comparison to their 2018 performance to have a much better bounce back year in 2019 if the Vikings are indeed going to seriously compete for a Super Bowl title in 2019. So let's start with the defense. I've got 3 players on the defense, 2 on the offense for a total of 5 players. On defense, we'll start with Erik Kendricks. I'm an Erik Kendricks fan, but I call it like I see it. 2018, Erik Kendricks had a down year to his standards. What really separates Erik Kendricks from the vast majority of linebackers, or let me rephrase that. What really makes Erik Kendricks so valuable is his coverage skills. And last year, his coverage was just up and down and up and down. Now, in regards to his footwork, I think that's the one thing that I noticed the most. His footwork was just off, and that actually goes into the second player I'll talk about as well. But his footwork was just off. He was having just late reactions to, I guess, reacting to once his man caught the ball instead of proactively preparing for that. Normally, he was just so good, and I think we saw this in the divisional round in 2017 against the Saints. I believe Alvin Kamara ran that wheel route to score on Erik Kendricks for like a 20-something yard catch and score for a touchdown pass. I think ever since that play, we've seen kind of a downward spiral for Erik Kendricks. He was still not bad in 2018, but he's going to need to pick it up and get back to his 2017 form. Can he do that? I believe he can. I really feel really confident that he will. Much like I've been saying, I feel confident about Pat Elflein bouncing back in 2018. I think Erik Kendricks can do the same. The main thing, again, was footwork. He needs to get back. He needs to get focused, and I think he'll do just fine. Number 2, and this kind of goes into the next player as far as the late reaction, Xavier Rhodes. Now, Xavier Rhodes doesn't necessarily – the Vikings, if they're going to compete for a championship, Xavier Rhodes doesn't necessarily need to be that 2017 cornerback that he was. And for all we know, he could very well turn out to be that same 2018 guy that we saw last year. The Vikings' opportunity of competing for a championship is not completely dependent on Xavier Rhodes. It would definitely be a luxury. It would definitely be a plus if Rhodes could bounce back. But as far as a guy that definitely needs to bounce back to at least, if nothing else, to justify his contract, Xavier Rhodes. Late footwork and late reaction to his man in coverage. And not only that, but also it was like more so once the receiver made a break on their route, he would just give up so much space, whereas like before he could use his size and his physicality to keep containment of the receivers. And now we saw last year, you remember in that Niners game where Stephon Diggs broke Richard Sherman's ankles and left him for like a curl route or whatever that was? Xavier Rhodes was basically that same guy, whereas initially he could keep up with you, but once a dude would make their break on the route, he would give up space immediately. And suddenly, quarterbacks weren't afraid of throwing at Xavier Rhodes anymore, much like in or the opposite of 2016 and much of 2017. Quarterbacks weren't afraid to throw at him at all, so I think he needs to do that. Not only was he giving up breaks on the routes, not only was his footwork off, even if he was in a position to make a play on the ball, this dude was still giving up contested catches. And that's like, I'm like, wow. So not only are you letting your receivers get open, when you are right there with them, you're still giving up receptions. So it was just such an off year for Xavier Rhodes in 2018. And then not only that, he played 14 games. So he missed 2 games in the 2018 season. He played 14 games. He had 9 penalties in those 14 games. So he was either getting burnt, giving up wide open catches, giving up contested catches, or he was giving up penalties, or he was doing a combination of both and reaching out for his knee whenever he give up a big play. My knee hurts. So you know what? He just needs to bounce back to at least justify that contract. That's Mike Zimmer's guy. He's not going to give up on him too easily. But Xavier Rhodes, he needs to bounce back. And quite honestly, when you look at the rest of the cornerbacks that we do have, I think we'll be just fine if Hughes can come back. Last time I saw, there was like a video of him running at full speed, so that's good to see. where he's at as far as his recovery. Will he be ready for training camp? I don't know, but we'll have to see how that works out. Holton Hill, he suspended the first 4 games because of PEDs. Last time I was like, wait, because I had a brain fart. I was like, wait, why is Holton Hill suspended again? Was it for smoking weed? And I think I was thinking of Rock Thomas. But Holton Hill, he's suspended for the first 4 games of the season, performance-enhancing drugs. So you have a question mark with Mike Hughes. Holton Hill, he's suspended the first 4 games. Trey Waynes is going to be there. Mackenzie Alexander, can he keep up that 2018 year that he had? We'll have to see. I think overall the secondary will be okay, whether Xavier Rhodes gets back to his old form or not. I don't think the Vikings championship contention, I don't think it rests on Xavier Rhodes being that shutdown corner, but it would definitely be nice if he could get at least halfway to what he was before. Will he get back to that? Like Erik Kendricks, I'm so confident in that dude that he's going to bounce back. With Xavier Rhodes, I just don't know. Honest to God, I don't know. I'm not going to completely write him off and say he's done, he's finished, but I do have my doubts. But at the same time, maybe he can bounce back. I honest to God, just don't know. That's a question mark. We'll have to see how it all plays out. He's getting up there in age, but you know what? We'll have to see how it works out. Number 3, the last person on defense that needs to step up, and quite honestly, just to get this out the way, I don't know whether he'll bounce back or not. It's really up to him. It's Anthony Barr. Anthony Barr, what I've noticed, and look, this isn't me hating on Anthony Barr. People need to really understand something. The thing about Anthony Barr that gets me so riled up is, think about Laquan Treadwell. Laquan Treadwell, you remember that in that Packers game, week 2 at Lambeau Field, and they were trying to come back. The Vikings, they were down by like 1 score. I want to say it was like 21-28, whatever it was. We were down 1 score with just over, I believe, 2 minutes left. And Kirk Cousins threw, I think Laquan Treadwell ran like a slant from the left side on into the middle. And Kirk Cousins, and that's his thing. He'll throw it to the receiver that's open. He doesn't care who that particular receiver is. He's just thinking about moving the chains and keeping the clock moving and trying to make something happen to get a score. This dude hit Laquan Treadwell right in the hands, and Laquan bounced it up, kind of did like a volleyball serve up in the air for an interception. Ultimately, the Vikings, they were able to manage and come back and tie the game and finish as a tie instead of a loss, thankfully speaking. But don't get it twisted. I was so ticked off with Laquan Treadwell. I was like, dude, he needs to be cut, or not even cut because his salary is guaranteed, so it's dead cap. I'm like, sit this dude on the damn bench. Sit his ass on the bench. I was so ticked off. But bigger picture, I'm not really upset with Laquan Treadwell. Does he need to get better? Sure he does. To stay in the NFL? Sure he does. But as far as my expectations of Laquan Treadwell, there are none. There are none. I've seen nothing to be like, oh my gosh, we just need him. No, we don't. If he gets better, that's cake. That's a plus. That's fine. Now, in comparison, compare that to Anthony Barr. What gets me so riled up with him is because, dude, 2014, his rookie year, I saw this dude. Anthony Barr showed all the talent in the world to where I'm like, this dude changes the entire dynamic of this defense. Much like Khalil Mack. The Chicago Bears in 2017, their defense was pretty good. It wasn't bad at all. It was actually pretty good. Khalil Mack gets over there, changes everything. Suddenly, they're a force to be reckoned with. And Anthony Barr has the talent to do that same thing. That 2014 rookie year, I saw everything that I need to see to be like, this dude could be one of the best linebackers in the league, top 5 easily. And he has all the talent in the world because I saw it. We see it. He has all the talent in the world to be one of the best linebackers in Vikings franchise history. And too many times since that moment, since that rookie year, 2015 wasn't bad. But ever since that time, it's like, I'm just sitting there like, come on, man, just getting annoyed because, again, we've seen it before. If Anthony Barr has been the same guy like he's always has been, where it's like, you know, kind of complacent. Sometimes he plays, sometimes he doesn't. Once in a while, he'll make a play, a splash play, but other times he leaves you wanting more. If he's always been that guy, then it's like, all right, that's just who he is. But I've seen, it's kind of like Andrew Wiggins, where you see once in a while, he takes not even once in a while. For the most part, he takes long twos all day. But then once in a while, he'll go through traffic, fight through the contact, and dunk and get an and one, go for a free throw. And you're like, you're right. That's what you need to do. And Anthony Barr is that same guy. Anthony Barr in 2018, you know what? When he rushes the passer, He's not bad. He's actually pretty damn good, except that Packers game when he got neutralized by a running back on a pass rush attempt. But also in the running game, he was late on his reactions as well, particularly against mobile quarterbacks. I'm thinking about Josh Allen, that Buffalo Bills game at Minnesota. I'm thinking about Mitch Trubisky in Week 17. When it comes to mobile quarterbacks, he kind of gets left in the dust, man. So, and the thing is, even in pass coverage, like he hasn't ever been like a pass coverage linebacker, but I've seen the saying now is like, okay, in 2019, Mike Zimmer, he needs to make Anthony Barr a full-on pass rusher. That's what he needs to be in order to be effective. And no, I don't agree with that at all. Anthony Barr can be effective. He's always been an off-ball linebacker under Mike Zimmer. He's always been called to do, whether it's rushing the passer or whether it's making plays in the running game or even pass coverage, making plays all around the field, not just rushing the passer. He's always been that guy. He has always held that same position. And in 2014, he was making plays all over the field. Even if you caught the ball, if you were in that second level, so if you're a tight end or if you're a receiver doing a 5-and-in route, or even if it's a drag route, if you're in that second level, you get the ball, Anthony Barr might not be able to cover you. But once you got that ball in your hands, even if you're like on the opposite side of the field, Anthony Barr will chase your ass down and just really just let you know that I am here. If you're going to do anything on this defense, you're going to have to go through me first. And that's the frustrating thing about Anthony Barr. Now, I will say there's been quite a few times last year we made a couple of plays. I think it was in Seattle. He had a good rush, a sack on Russell Wilson. There are times where he make plays, but I'm not buying into this. He needs to be a full-time pass rusher in order to be effective. I don't believe that at all. I think, honestly, it just comes down to motor. Maybe, I don't know what else it could be. I think it just comes down to motor, whether he wants to play and whether he wants to give it his all. That's completely up to him. But I've seen it, and that's what ticks me off about Anthony Barr. If Anthony Barr was always this guy, and look, whether you're siding with me, if you are on the side that I am with Anthony Barr, or if you're on the opposite side and you think he's great, I think we can all agree that there is another level to this dude that we, the fans, we need to see. It's only fair. The fans, they invest their heart into this team. Come on in. You're not going to win every single play. That's fine. Hell, Harrison Smith, sometimes he gives up catches. Sometimes he gets caught out of tune. But guess what? We know he cares. Erik Kendricks, he cares. After that Saints game where he gave up that, or not after, but after that wheel route touchdown he gave up to Alvin Kamara, he thought he ruined it. He thought he cost the Vikings the game. He was crying. I know that he cares, okay? All these plays, I know that they care. I just need to know that Anthony Barr cares. Is he going to bounce back? I don't know. It's completely up to him. I literally have no idea. Because last year, I was like, yo, this dude, I know I've been critical of Anthony Barr, but this dude, this might be his best year because this is a contract year for him. This is what's going to motivate him, and it just wasn't that. So, I mean, we'll have to see how it all works out. I don't think the Vikings' 11-5 prediction rests on Xavier Rhodes or Anthony Barr. But if the Vikings are going to contend for a championship, because again, sometimes the problem with Mike Zimmer is that sometimes the opposing offensive coordinators, or even if they're the head coach calling the offensive plays, sometimes they'll figure out Mike Zimmer, and Zimmer has a tough time readjusting to that offense. If Anthony Barr can just wreak havoc and blow up play, this is the last thing I'm going to say about Anthony Barr. This was, good Lord. I think this was 2017. So I think this was 2017. They played the Cleveland Browns over in London, if I'm not mistaken. And there was one play where Anthony Barr, it was like a running play or something like that. I think it was a running play. And Anthony Barr was going after the running back. He was kind of like, oh, let me just make a play. Like, he can his eyes wasn't really locked in, but he was like, all right, I'm going to just go make a play. Here's where the running back is going. And he got blown up, kind of like pushed off by I don't think it was Joe Thomas, but he got pushed off on the offensive line, just kind of pushed back, and like Anthony Barr got neutralized. And that very next play, I think it was a screen pass or a pitch or something, and Anthony Barr, you could tell he was ticked off from the play before, blew up the offensive line, blew up the protection, and absolutely wreaked havoc on that ball carrier. This dude can be a beast, and that's what's frustrating. He's too talented to simply be okay. And so far for the last couple of years, he's been okay. Okay enough to get by, but as far as the defense can always be good, but Anthony Barr can change everything, and that's what frustrates me about him. I just need to see that again. Will he bounce back? I have no idea. So anyway, enough about defense. Get that out. Moving on to the offense. 2 players on the offense that needs to have a bounce-back performance in 2019. Number 1, Dalvin Cook. And not to say that Dalvin Cook needs to get better at playing football. He's a beast. Much like I compare Stephon Diggs to Antonio Brown, Dalvin Cook is also like a former Steeler. Le'Veon Bell, I compare him to him all the time. Very patient. He takes what the defense gives him and takes the advantage of whatever holes or leaks that there are to move the ball up the chains and keep the clock running. That's what he's focused on. Very refreshing, a breath of fresh air compared to what we previously had in Adrian Peterson in his latter years, where as soon as he gets the ball, he's like a basketball player doing behind the back passes, just in the backfield dancing around, just is there a hole? And he's just dancing, doing the moonwalk, banking up 5 yards ahead of time, and then all you know, you got to tackle for loss. But what makes Dalvin Cook so special is he's not trying to dance around. He's simply trying to find the hole that's there, and he's patient. He'll get it, and once he sees it, he's gone. He's gone. That's how good he is. The only problem with Dalvin Cook is he needs to stay healthy. We're going into year 3 of this dude, Dalvin Cook. He needs to stay healthy. I like the idea of a timeshare running back committee. I'm guessing that's why they drafted Alex Madison. I think we could have been just fine with Mike Boone as that second running back. We'll have to see how it all works out. As much as I'd like for Dalvin Cook to be a bell cow running back, he's shown that he's not durable enough to do it so far. So we'll have to see how it works out. But if he can stay healthy, bro, you're talking about, we already got Diggs and Thielen, but you're talking about now, and Irv Smith, Kyle Rudolph, if he's going to be on the team, we'll have to see. But Dalvin Cook, if you can focus the offense around him, and I think that's what Gary Kubiak's going to try to do with his own blocking scheme, if you can focus the offense around him, suddenly that sets up play action for Kirk Cousins where he's at his best. Suddenly that opens things up even more for your 2 receivers, the best duo receiving league, or the best tandem receiving duo in the NFL. That opens things up for everybody else. You move the chains, you keep the clock running, and guess what? This dude's simply a beast. And now there's an offensive line to actually block for him. So now when we get up on the goal line, or we're at 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, the issue was with John DeFilippo, it was like the most obvious running back calls, or just a straight up the middle, punch up the gut. You knew it was coming, but that offensive line, it didn't have that push there. Now you got it with Garrett Bradbury. Now you got it. Josh Klein, we'll have to see. But I know you got it with Drew Samia, okay? So either way, this offensive line is a lot better than last year. If he can just stay healthy, they'll be just fine. That's literally the only thing Dalvin Cook has to do. Easier said than done. We'll have to see. Lastly, the last person that needs to step up in regards to his 2018 performance and how he needs to do a complete 180 turnaround in 2019 is Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins had a pretty good statistical year, still threw over 4,000 yards as he typically does. But what he needs to do is the mental game. He needs to get better at making smarter decisions. I think the problem with Kirk Cousins is he overthinks. He paralyzes himself mentally. You can tell. I think that was the Seattle game where the pocket was collapsing around him and he threw it behind. Like he threw a backwards pass to Latavius Murray, which could have resulted in a huge turnover, possibly even more. But you can tell he studies so hard. You could tell he really, really cares about the game. But he puts himself in a position where he's trying to be perfect every single time. And when you're doing it, if it doesn't come off naturally, then all of a sudden you're thinking too much, and you're not going to be as smooth in your delivery, no matter what, regardless what it is that you do. I remember a couple of years ago, it's been a couple of years since I've done this, but I used to do stand-up comedy. And when I first started, I practice just like every comic does. You practice your lines and you go over it and go over it and go over it, delivery, everything like that. And then the first time I did, not even the first time, I think it was like first time it was actually not that bad, not to pat myself on the back, but like the second or third time, I got up there with some new material, and I was just, all right, I practiced, but I was really, really nervous. And then all of a sudden, it was like, okay, I went over the first line, boom, and then, okay, how's the crowd reacting? Because the lights are super bright. You can't even see anybody. But it's like, all right, how's the crowd reacting? Are they reacting like I expected them to? Oh, okay, they're not. Oh, man, this sucks. Okay, now get to the next line. Wait, what was the next line? I completely forgot. And I just froze. I just effed up. I just completely lost it. And that's the thing. And it was a joke. I'm not going to say what the joke was. It was basically how years ago I was saying, hey, I'm not ready to be a parent because of the world, everything that's out there for my kids to absorb. There's just bad influences out there. And I use an example of Dora the Explorer, that's a terrible show for kids to watch. I was joking, of course. I'm not going to say the whole joke because it's a little bit too blunt. It's a little bit too direct. And quite honestly, I probably won't even do stand-up anymore because it's like one of those things where people, I don't know, I just feel like, not to go on a tangent, but I feel like just people are just too damn sensitive now. Like you can't just, stand-up is already such a hard thing to do. It's a hard field to break into. But like all of a sudden you got people that got their cameras out there recording, and people are so offended to where they're like, they'll look you up, find your name and stuff. They'll find where you work at, and then they'll contact that company. Oh, company XYZ. I saw your employee, Realistic Randy, saying this and this and this. And here's the video. Is this who you choose to represent your company? And then I get fired. And then, you know what? So I'm just like, whatever. But anyway, getting back to the point, when you rehearse, and that's fine, but you're so busy and so just in your head trying to be perfect all the time, you just completely screw up. I think Kirk Cousins needs to let go. He needs to just let the game come to him, much like I talked about Dalvin Cook, and I think he'll be fine. And I'm not trying to steal this from Aaron Rodgers, but quite honestly, what Kirk Cousins needs to do is RELAX. Just relax, baby. You can play football. Hey, I get it. Kirk Cousins, he's been dismissed his entire career and all that stuff. Aaron Rodgers was too. But guess what? He just plays the game. Now, the last couple of years, he's been whatever. I'm not scared of him at all, especially with Mike Zimmer calling the defensive plays. But Kirk Cousins, if you just relax, you'll be fine. Yes, the offensive line stunk last year. It's better now this year. You got Gary Kubiak opposed to John DeFilippo calling plays now. So that's good. Guess what? Offensive line is good. Offensive play caller is good. You got Kevin Stefanski there, okay? You're good. You're all set. Irv Smith Jr., you are just fine. Just play ball, baby, and you'll be fine. So out of all those 5 players, the 2 people that definitely need to step up, because even with Dalvin Cook, I could see you can pretty much plug in any running back. I think, honestly, with that position group, you'll be fine no matter what. But the 2 players that definitely need to step up out of that 5 in order for the team to really hit that 11-5 mark, Kirk Cousins and Erik Kendricks. After that, Xavier Rhodes, if you can be good, if you can be halfway as decent as 2017, that's cake. I'll take that. Anthony Barr, man, it's up to you, man. That I'm telling you, it's nothing personal. You just need to get back into that form, man. Get back into that mode. You're not going to make plays all the time, but I've seen enough from this dude when he first got into the league, and maybe it's that hunger, like when you first get into the field, your name is in the bright lights, and I've made it, baby, and now I'm about to show the world who I am. And then I don't know if he just got complacent or whatever it is, but we've seen enough. We've seen enough of a sample size to know that there's another level to this dude. As far as hitting the 11-5 mark, I think the Vikings can do it, whether Anthony Barr is great or not. And then Dalvin Cook, if you can just stay healthy, that'll be good. But Kirk Cousins and Erik Kendricks, those 2 dudes, they absolutely have to turn their performance around in 2019 if this Vikings team will be successful. So anyway, we do this 3 times a week. Realistic Randy, Mediokr Best Sports Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. You can find me on Twitter at realistic_Randy. Facebook at Realistic Randy. YouTube, my Saturday podcast on YouTube. Just search Realistic Randy. We'll see you later in the week with another podcast episode on Score North.